My name is Beau Keeley, and I'm in Slab City. I was raised poor. There was one Christmas present in our stockings. There was never enough to eat. I was hungry every day until I was about 18 years old. I had a string of jobs that paid from 3 cents up to 25 cents an hour throughout childhood. But I always kept in mind what Abe Lincoln said: work hard and one day your chance will come. My chance came when I caught my first freight train, and it led down a lot of bends of the rails through 400 freight trips to Slab City. I moved here 8 years ago and haven't had a regret since then. So follow me to Slab City. The freights led me to a place called Sand Valley, which is just over the bombing range, 25 miles east of Slab City. There I homesteaded. I still have a 10-acre property with a deed. I brought in a motorcycle with a trailer and a little camp trailer, and for 15 years, sweat and toil, I built it up. Then one day, 8 years ago, in 2014, I returned from a trip and it had been razed. Everything was burned, firebombed, stolen. It was no place to live anymore. I tracked, in fact, I caught two of the slab brassers. A brasser is a person who scraps the range. I've done it plenty of times myself. The scrappers, in this case, they didn't get enough brass to fill their pockets, so they went into the next valley over where I live, Sand Valley, and they robbed me and a number of the other residents. And I returned to smoke and ashes and my things strewn all over the yard. 2 motorcycles burned, my car, my old 2001 Ford Contour, pulled off the blocks, and that was it. So I returned to my property, and there was nothing left to live for there. I walked down to my neighbors. My nearest neighbor was a mile and a half away, and caught 2 of the slab thieves in the process of robbing him, and chased them across the bombing range. I had a plastic squirt gun in my pocket, in a rail, went to 30 miles, across the Chocolate Mountain bombing range, past the targets and the 6-foot bombs buried in the ground, and came out on Coachella Canal Road, where on the road I lost their tracks, and that was it. I liked the look of Slab City and decided to settle there. I got a rent-a-car, rented by the month, from a Chevy Spark from Hertz. I got a rent-a-car from Hertz, a rolling motel at $20 a day, and for the first 2 years in Slab City, I camped along the Coachella Canal. So I arrived in Slab City in 2014 in a Chevy Spark rent-a-car. It was $20 a day, rented by the month. It sounds expensive, but it was my rolling motel room. I car camped up and down the Coachella Canal. From Slab City at the library, drop 7, down 6, 5, all the way 10 miles from Slab City to the south to drop 2. Each day I would go out hiking. I'm a nature guy. I would track the animals. I discovered springs. There were no other hikers out, but there were brassers. I tracked them. There were illegals, polio from south of the border. I tracked them. I tracked people tracking me, and got pretty good at it. At night, I slept wherever I parked my car. All the while I'm doing this, for the first year, I'm looking for the things that were stolen from my property in Sand Valley. $80,000 worth of things, all my life belongings, were taken. And I got to know a few of the people in fact, a lot of the people who were primarily from the underworld. For my first year to 2 years in Slab City, I thought, well, everybody is a criminal here just because I was tracking my stolen things, and those are the only kinds of people I met. Was interactions with the Border Patrol. Now, I had been a sub-teacher in Blythe, California for 10 years, and I always promoted the Border Patrol, demoted the customs, which that is immigration along the border, which to me is corrupt. But Border Patrol agents, I told my students, it's something you might want to aim for. You're outdoors, you get to track people, and it's just more of an honest living. I thought that before I moved to Slab City. The difference in Border Patrol agents in other places and in Slab City is where the action is. And unfortunately, many of the Border Patrolmen fall under the stress. I tracked them, they tracked me, we tracked each other, tracking each other. Let me give you a couple examples. I was sleeping one morning along the Coachella Canal at drop 3 outside the Chevy rent-a-car, and I heard a buzzing over my head. It wasn't a horsefly, but it was a Border Patrol plane. They had spotted my car parked in the desert and assumed that I was smuggling illegals from the border and making a spiral closer and closer in until they were about 100 feet above me. I turned over, it was about sunrise, thought I've got about 45 minutes response time, laid there waking up for 5 minutes, and then got out as the Border Patrol continued to spiral in the plane above me, and decided not to take water, just a hat, stuck on my ankle weights, and walked east toward the Chocolate Mountains. The response time was, I knew they were going to call the main office up in Indio and send down trucks, quads, and whatever they needed to catch this so-called smuggler. I wasn't smuggling anything. I was just waking up to take another hike to the Chocolate Mountains. I started walking east. As I walked east, I got a half mile away from my camp on the Coachella Canal, and the Border Patrolman had a choice in the airplane. He could keep circling in my camp to give directions to the arriving Border Patrol truck and quads, or he could follow me. He decided to follow me, and he circled me as I kept walking at about 2 miles an hour overland toward the Chocolate Mountains. Now I was about a mile away when the first Border Patrol trucks arrived, and then another one, and quads unloaded. The problem the Border Patrolmen had, I could hear their engines, but they hadn't showed up yet. The problem the Border Patrolman had was he couldn't direct them to the exact spot unless he was circling over it, but he couldn't direct them to me unless he was circling over me. So as he circled over me, I made and turned back to where his buddies were arriving. I made a right angle turn into a wash and vanished from their perspective. He directed the Border Patrolmen from the air to where I had been, and they took off in that direction. I was about 2 miles away at a time, and now taking a right-hand angle. So they arrived there, but I had gone over hard pan, and they couldn't find me. The Border Patrol airplanes circled, and whenever he was above me, pointed at me, I hid under an ironwood or a Palo Verde, and whenever he was going the other direction, I took off. Over the course of the next 2 hours, they tracked me, and I tracked them all the way back to my original camp, where they finally gave it up. They parked there, and I watched them from 100 yards away load up their trucks with the quads. The airplane took off. It was probably a $10,000 operation, and they went home empty-handed. There were a dozen other incidents involving hands on guns, them tracking me tracking them. I got to know their supervisors in Indio and in Yuma so well from calling in their incompetencies that I told them I was a gonzo reporter on the Border Patrol, that they began to defer to me. And on the calls to him, I told to the supervisors, I would tell him, well, the score is now 6 in favor of Beau and 2 in favor of Border Patrol. That is, they hadn't caught me 6 times and I had tracked them, and they had surprised and caught me 2 times. If they don't have a quad, if they only have a 4-wheel drive Border Patrol truck, then it's very difficult for them to catch me, because all I have to do is backtrack over a hard pan. I can climb a tree. I had shoes, soles mounted backwards on my own boots, so it looked like I was walking the same direction. Really, they didn't have much of a chance. In another instance, I can't say was really me, but it was a guy who looked like me. Out Beale Road. Beale Road, as you know, continues from Niland to Slab City and then across the bombing range. In fact, it continues past through the Chocolates and threads around to Sand Valley. Along Beale Road, 3 miles south of Slab City, there's a cutoff road that goes right south to a military base called Speedbag. And at that point, the Border Patrol had mounted a camera in a Palo Verde tree. And this fellow who looks like me got a buddy and went out one sunset. The buddy, who looked like Popeye the Sailor, climbed the tree with a pair of wire cutters. He was a veteran scrapper and a local. He knew what he was doing. He said, all I need is a pair of dike pliers. He climbed the tree,